think this is quite common for the immigrant household or any minority household, which is that you know that you're gonna have to take care of your parents one day.
This is an amazing young woman, Parvati, from South Florida. Half Filipino, half Dominican, cup eternally half full, despite every reason in the world for it not to be.
I do it for my family, honestly, in the sense that my sister has medical debt and she has student loan debt, and she can't even get a job, like a well enough paying job to pay a lot of her bills.
So Parvati went straight to the workforce so she could help pay for the studio apartment she shares with her sister and mother. It's an improvement from the homeless shelter she grew up in. And with no car, it takes her 90 minutes to commute across Miami, each way, every day. Her version of the American dream may not look like yours.
You got a lot of weight on your shoulders and not just that backpack.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's just me. I mean, I think it's insane that at the age of 21, I have to go through this, but I think a lot of people go through this.
I joined her after a marathon workday on her marathon commute home. A half-mile walk, to a train, to a people mover, to the street.
Oh, this is like a really fast light, so you gotta run.
To a bus. And after all of that,
Excuse me, would you like a card?
she still finds energy
Would you like a card?
for a brand new commitment,
Bernie Sanders for president,
volunteering for a political campaign.
$15 minimum wage.
On this night, she's spending 2 more hours sending postcards to voters, explaining just how much presidential politics affect her life.
Do you want to list some of the policies?
But she's not writing her fellow voters in this huge, diverse, super important swing state. The only signs of Democratic nominees here are in cardboard form. Instead, this group of volunteers is writing postcards to voters in Iowa, the small, mostly white, largely rural state with an oversized role in presidential politics.
They do have such an impact on who's the nominee, and they're not thinking about all the issues that we're thinking about.
The same days we spent with Parvati and other voters in Florida, LX, in partnership with data intelligence firm Morning Consult, polled 2,200 U.S. adults online regarding their opinions of our presidential process. And 59% agreed with Parvati that the early voting states, such as Iowa and New Hampshire, did not represent their views. It may not be a surprise when you realize their minority rates are far below the national average, as are their unemployment rates and rates of poverty. LX recently explained how Iowa and New Hampshire maintain their monopoly on the nation's first 2 presidential contests, and there's been a lot of talk at the campaign trail recently about possibly changing that.
Some candidates are wondering whether Iowa really should be the first to vote.
You have Iowa and New Hampshire.
2 states that hardly have any black people in them, hardly have any people of color.
Talk to voters here in Florida and you realize it's not just race where Iowa and New Hampshire seem so far away. It's also the issues that those voters bring to the forefront. Things like housing prices and climate change just aren't the same priority there that they are here in Florida or many other big swing states.
They have their issues, but they don't understand our problems.
Tomas Regalado is a Cuban exile and former 2-term Miami mayor. After serving as President Trump's director of Cuba broadcasting, the popular Republican is back working for the people of Miami, hosting a daily radio show.
Saludos amigos y muy buenas tardes.
He says politicians of both parties should be paying more attention to the kitchen table issues that affect his community. Issues like climate, Latin America policies, and immigration reform.
Here, everybody crosses party lines.
Our national poll showed Democrats felt more detached from early voting states than Republicans. But Regalado says the early state emphasis affects everybody. In 2012, it was Florida Republicans who tried to break the primary and caucus cartel by moving their primary into January. But party leadership smacked them down, and the status quo has continued.
But get this, despite the opinion that Iowa and New Hampshire may not represent their views, 59% of U.S. adults told us they were satisfied with those 2 teeny tiny states continuing to lead the way in picking a president.
And even though the average resident of Iowa and New Hampshire are both older than the average American, it was younger respondents in our poll who indicated the highest satisfaction with them holding the first presidential contests. Regalado suspects it's because younger voters are getting more engaged in their communities nationwide.
You've seen a lot.
I've seen a lot.
You've seen a lot.
Trust me, but I've never seen the people so engaged as we are seeing now today here in Miami.
LX and Morning Consult also asked a series of other questions about how we pick a president, including, would you be more likely to vote if Election Day was held on a weekend instead of a Tuesday? A third of all respondents said yes. Only 6% said moving Election Day would make them less likely to vote. A lot of Americans promise they'll be engaged this year, no matter what obstacles are in their way.
Hi, excuse me, would you like a card?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No.
You'll get that. It's fine though.
Is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. This is my family. Like, this is my mom. This is my sister, you know? Yeah, this is, yeah.
The order of how we pick a president was just one of the topics that LX and Morning Consult polled. There were a lot of other really interesting findings too about the way we pick our president, the way we vote, and impeachment as well. To see those full findings, click on the link in this post. And for more of the great stuff that LX has planned for 2020, make sure to like and subscribe to our feed.